happened was with the afternoon we were sitting around talking in groups. You know, there's a picture of William Pitt in the back here, a very large painting, probably one of those that David White was referring to. Well, what happened was he came down off that painting, and he saw what was going on here, and he was very upset. And he speaks in a very loud, authoritative voice. And he was pounding staff on the floor, and he was calling for his men to come and do something about this. And at that point, when the police started coming, I started paying attention to what was going on. And I thought you should know that. A second thing, there was another lecture taking place. I forget which one it was. And suddenly, we all were wearing... women were wearing gowns and the men were in formal dress, and there was an orchestra up here, and we were waltzing in this beautiful place. And I liked that one, so I let that one go for quite a while. And the third daydream I had was during Tim's presentation, and everyone who was on these paintings in the room gathered up in that little balcony there where all those seats are, kind of a loggia. And they just sat up there and listened to Tim very intently and with a great deal of pleasure. I thought that was quite nice to have that audience. I just want you to know that those people are listening to you. And I'll tell you one more thing about this. I'll try to explain all this later. I mean, it has some relevance. I may not get time to, but I'll try. The other thing is that many years ago, a novel came to me. And I started writing this novel. It was about a psychiatrist who was quite bizarre, very unusual. And one of the things he did was whenever he got to his office in the morning, he'd go to his desk, and behind his desk was a large painting of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And some mornings when he would arrive there, it was just a painting and it was fine. And he would just look at the painting and sit down and start doing his work. But many mornings he arrived, Adam and Eve were walking in this garden. And he would talk to Eve especially. In fact, he only talked to Eve. I don't know why. You know, in novels, you don't know why people are doing these things. And he called her mother. And would say, "Mother, could you help me today with what I'm doing?" And she would talk to him. And anyway, I'm sure that's why you wanted to hear me talk tonight, to tell about these things. But it does, as I say, it does have some relevance. Now, what I wanted to tell you about with the soul is that I get my thoughts about the soul from the past. I really live in the past. I don't live in the present. I'm sorry, I don't live in the present. Those people talking about living in the now, I don't. I never have. I live in the past. And whenever I'm at futurist conferences, I always tell people I'm a pastist. I prefer the past. I wish, I lived in the 1500s, and I try to live in the 1500s. I dialogue with the dead. I don't dialogue with the living very much. I'm not terribly sociable, but I'm quite sociable with the dead. So, well, it's true. I'm sorry. It's true. And so my friends, the ones I rely on for my thoughts, are very dead. And I start with Plato, for example. I consider myself a Platonist, a Neoplatonist. But Plato, because what did Plato do? He talked about the soul in all of his books. He talked about the soul, psyche, the soul. And for example, too, then he expanded on his ideas of the soul. In his book, The Symposium, he discussed the nature of love in a beautiful setting of people having dinner and drinking together, and each person standing up to say what love is. It's a wonderful, beautiful statement. And there's a tradition among people who are Platonists to celebrate that symposium every November 7th. And on November 7th in our home, we gather our friends, we have dinner, and someone stands up and says what they think love is all about. And that's how we celebrate Plato's birthday. It's a beautiful, beautiful tradition. Now, after him, there was Plotinus, who was the founder of Neoplatonism, who wrote the Aeneids, which were it's a long collection of chapters, really, of a large piece of work, all about the soul and beauty and spirituality and the relation of God and the soul.